Hey guys, my name is Doug Anderson from Snakes Alive. I have been keeping reptiles for well over 20 years. I've been a wheelchair user for much longer than that. And over the years, I've had to learn how to adapt the hobby to suit my disability. And I've learned a couple of things that I think could benefit you. So I decided to put a video together and share. The last while, I've been specializing in breeding ball pythons. I created Snakes Alive in the early 2000s, and the two questions that I get asked the most is, one, is it easy to breed ball pythons, and two, is it expensive? So hopefully with this video I'm able to answer those two questions, but it is easy enough to breed ball pythons, and no, it doesn't have to be expensive. So I'm going to show you how to breed ball pythons on a budget. Hey guys, this is Doug from Snakes Alive, and on the theme of breeding ball pythons on a budget, I wanted to show you some caging options that are really cheap. There are fancy, expensive units that one can buy to house and breed ball pythons in, and if you can afford it, by all means, please do so. However, for those of us that work on a budget, I wanted to show you an option that I have been using. So I'm in my snake room, and along one of my walls, this is an average size room, I have about 40 adults that are breeding. I'll show you some hatchlings in a moment, but these are just simple space saver drawers, and they're quite large. They can house pretty large ball pythons. I'll show you one of them. This female is around 3 kilos, and they're pretty cheap. They come in at about 150 Rand. It's about $15. When it comes to heating, I wanted to show you what I do. I have heating cable that runs along each side of the enclosure, and then also have heating that runs along the back, and each of these heating cables has a separate plug. So I do banks of 5, right, and then I have multiple banks next to each other, and I can go higher than 5, but I'm a wheelchair user, so that's as high as I can reach. I have a light that's on a timer. Some breeders like to use a timer, others say light doesn't really make a difference. I make the summer daytime longer than winter. The rationale for having 3 separate heating sources is if something goes wrong with the thermostat, which I'll show you in a moment, then I'm able to manipulate the temperature manually. So the rationale for having heating along the sides and then the back is, if you consider where ball pythons are found in Central and Northwest Africa, 1, it's really hot, and 2, they're found in termite mounds and in burrows of mammals, and underground you would have quite a decent, stable ambient temperature. So that is why I have heating underneath as well as on the sides. I found it to work really well for me. All these adults are happy, feeding, and most importantly breeding. This female is ovulating at the moment. That's a side note. Anyway, 2 key things in my snake room that I feel has made me more successful as a breeder since I've introduced them. And that is an aircon, which is set at 30 degrees during summer. I drop it down to 25 during winter and the breeding season. Gradually, come 1 April, I drop it down by a degree a week until I get down to 25. So I drop the ambient temperature in the room overall. I also drop the temperature of the thermostat. In terms of this setup here, I'll show you. I have a thermostat, and the thermostat is connected to a multi-plug, and then each bank of 5 is connected in series using a whole whack of multi-plugs along the top. If you consider that one heating cable is 30 watts, you're looking at about 100 watts per stack. So I have 8, that's 800 watts, and the thermostat can take up to 2000, so I'm well within the limit. So what I have here is what I call a test cage, and basically what it is, I've taken drawers from many years ago. I put perspex in the front, so now I use them in all my banks where I have a test cage. And what the test cage is, it's a cage set up exactly how I'd want to keep a ball python in terms of temperature. So the probe from the thermostat, which is set at a maximum of 30, currently the temperature is 29.2, the probe rests on the floor of the cage over the heating that's at the back of the cage, and I've placed it pretty central so it'll also pick up the heat from the sides, and in this way I'm able to control the temperature of the cages. I keep it pretty central. Out of the bank of 5 I do it halfway up, and it's a pretty easy way to control the temperature of all 40 cages that are along this wall. The other reason why I like these space saver drawers is you can see I've pretty much written all over them. It's a nice way of keeping records of your snakes during breeding, etc., which is exactly what I have done here. And all you need to do with this really is to take a photograph of the front of the cage at the end of the breeding season, and you've got all your information there instead of having bits and pieces of paper. But each to their own. I just find this quite useful for record keeping purposes.